What's going on, everyone? It is the Derp, and in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to spam your Song of Flame super using Crown of Tempests. Kind of an unconventional way to spam your super, but it works very well. If you've been looking for a build where you can essentially print orbs of power, deal ridiculous amounts of damage, switch in and out of Transcendence and your Song of Flame super every 30 to 60 seconds, this build is for you. You are absolutely going to wreck the battlefield in whatever activity you are in. You're going to be able to support your teammates constantly by being able to proc Radiant, and of course, you are going to look ridiculously cool doing it. So if you guys find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Please share this with a guardian in need. My goal is to help as many people as possible. Song of Flame super spam. Here we go. So to get us started, our super of choice is going to be Song of Flame. Release a supercharged melee attack that launches additional projectiles. Create a sentient flame wisp that seeks out targets and detonates in a scorching explosion, then seeks out other nearby targets. While Song of Flame is active, you and nearby allies regenerate abilities more quickly, are more resistant to incoming damage, and your solar and kinetic weapons scorch targets. Still one of the best supers in the game. One of the most versatile supers because you still can use weapons technically while you are, active in your super. So there's really not much else to say. It's just that great of a super. For abilities, I prefer to use the Phoenix Dive, the Burst Glide, and for this build, we are going to need Arcane Needle for its ability to stack 3 times in our charge slot. The grenade is completely up to you. I like the Threadling grenade thanks to the artifact. However, you can't really ever go wrong with a healing grenade. And as we all know, the Storm grenade is one of the best instant damage grenades that you can have. But I guess it really depends on your preference. Any of these grenades will work for this build as we're not really going to be using them that much. For aspects, first up is going to be Feed the Void. Defeat a target with any ability to activate Devour. Your Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy. Remember, everyone, as you have Devour, you can continue to extend it over and over again with Final Blows. Next up is going to be Lightning Surge. While sliding, activate your charge melee ability to blink forward, calling down lightning strikes and jolt targets as you rematerialize. Targets that are hit by your lightning strikes grant you stacks of bolt charge. The main play of this build is going to be activating our lightning surge as much as possible. We're going to mod our armor a little bit to give us some extra super back, and on top of that, we're going to be generating, basically printing orbs of power constantly. For fragments, first up is going to be Fast of Purpose. Picking up an orb of power grants us restoration while we have a solar super equipped. Next up is going to be Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. We're going to be constantly refreshing our abilities over and over and over again, on top of being able to spam our super in as little as 30 seconds, depending on the activity, every time. Next up is going to be Fast of Awakening. Rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage or super final blows generates an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. So, elemental pickups that we are going to get from this build: Fire Sprites, Ionic Traces, Void Breaches, possible Stasis Shards, and of course, Tangles. Next up, we're going to have Facet of Protection. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While Transcendent, the effect is increased. Because we are going to be able to pop Transcendence, which I'm going to talk about here in a second so often, Facet of Protection is going to be even more potent than what it normally is because we are going to build Transcendence into this overall setup. Last but not least is going to be Facet of Honor. Collecting an elemental pickup or destroying a tangle grants Transcendence energy of the same type. This is probably the one that you can swap out with something else if you prefer. The most notably that you might want to swap this out with would be down here, Facet of Dawn. Powered melee hits against targets make you radiant. Powered melee final blows make you and nearby allies radiant. If you want to be the total team player, you put the Facet of Dawn on. If you and your fire team want to be total team players, everybody has Facet of Dawn on if they're running a build that includes Lightning Surge, and everyone's going to be constantly Radiant, I mean virtually endlessly. So we're going to talk about Transcendence real quick. We are going to be able to spam Transcendence constantly with this build. So the play, the kind of the game loop is going to be, you're going to want to pop Transcendence as soon as possible. The way that you do that is make sure you swap through your weapons so you're generating as much light and darkness energy as necessary. Once you get that, you are going to pop your Transcendence. The gameplay loop that I play with here is I pop Transcendence and I chuck that grenade right away. Chuck it at a group of enemies, I don't care. Whatever I chuck at, I instantly run after and Lightning Surge into it. So if it is a group of enemies, that's probably best because the more kills you get with your Lightning Surge while you are Transcendent, the slower the cooldown for your Transcendence goes as you are creating damage. So remember that when you are Transcendent, if you are generating damage, it slows the cooldown. So if you are spamming Lightning Surge and you have thousands of ads around you, not literally, but figuratively speaking, of course, and you keep dealing damage, whether that's with weapons or in this case, Lightning Surge, you are going to slow down the cool off of your Transcendence bar, meaning you can keep it going. I've kept it going for over a minute before. And if you are in a very busy activity, having Transcendence procced for a minute straight and basically having constantly refreshed abilities is pretty insane as far as what we can do with our armor to get us our super back. And then boom, once the Transcendence actually ends, what do you think's coming out next? Your super. And then once your super ends, depending on where you end up with light and darkness damage beforehand, you could theoretically go right back into Transcendence depending on how you play. For stat distribution, I recommend speccing into super, melee, and weapons in that order. You really don't have to worry about grenade or class because we're not really using our class ability for other than maybe occasionally diving to safety with our Phoenix Dive or casting your Rift every once in a while. Considering we're going to have Devour and Restoration constantly procced on this character, it's not really necessary to dump a ton into your health stat either. So what I like to do is I like to get my Paragon armor going so I can get my super and my melee up higher. And then what I do is I see if I can get a couple of rolls with the weapons as my tertiary stat, and then whatever I have left over, dump into grenade. Or maybe I mix in a grenadier armor, and then, you know, I kind of get it that way. So however you want to balance it, if you get your grenade up to a 70, that's going to be plenty. You could actually run this build with a 50 in your grenade, and you'd still have your grenade theoretically just as often. Because remember, we're going to have Devour procced pretty much the entire time we're killing enemies in any activity. So it's not entirely necessary to really go crazy with mixing and matching different archetypes. If you roll around with Paragon and you get 3 or 4 of them out of your, your rolls, as long as you have that third stat in weapons, which yes, I know sometimes it takes a minute to get that, that good roll. You should be able to center around right around triple 100s without much problem at all. And like I said, the class doesn't matter. The grenade kind of matters, not really. And the health, again, we're going to have Devour proc constantly and Restoration. I mean, if you bump it up to a 30 or even a 25, like what kind of where I've got it, it's probably going to be just fine in all activities. But if you get lucky and you bump it up to say like a 60 or a 70, that's going to be even better, once you get into the ultimate level difficulties. For weapons in the kinetic slot, we're going to roll with New Malpais or Mint Retrograde. Either of these two options are going to be ridiculous in this build. It's just going to come down to what you want. If you want to have exploding rounds, put on New Malpais. If you just want some ridiculous damage, special ammo pulse rifle that, hopefully you got from Zavala the other week, the what they call the God roll of Mint Retrograde, which is rewind and bait and switch. But if you don't, just any Mint Retrograde in general is going to be a great addition to this build. But I prefer New Malpais, especially for the barrier champs. I don't know why. I don't see a ton of people running it, but I really enjoy using it. It's just kind of satisfying knowing that I could theoretically suspend any enemy at any time, including champs, if I dump enough rounds into it. And if you haven't messed around with New Mount Pais, make sure you do so. Get used to how that functions. I'm telling you, you're not going to be disappointed. In the energy slot, I like to run with the Mida Mini tool, the new Rev 1 version of it. There's a couple of rolls that you can roll with that, will function just fine. My personal preference is going to be Heel Clip and Incandescent. However, if you are going into like Grandmaster and you take this in there, Incandescent's really not going to get proc that often, so you're going to want to switch over to Burning Ambition so you can deal constant scorch damage. The trade-off here is deciding if you want Heel Clip or Attrition Orbs. Attrition Orbs is nice because if you are not getting a lot of multi-kills, getting Orbs of Power is going to help you retain ability energy during times where you're kind of bogged down. The flip side of that is, can you really ever have too much healing? I don't think you can, but I'll let you guys decide. Let me know in the comments which one you would pick between these two and which one functions better for you between these two. Other options for the energy slot would be basically any solar weapon, submachine gun, and or auto rifle that you prefer. The reason for that is so you have the ability to stun unstoppable champs. In the heavy slot, I still really like this newer rocket launcher. I finally got a ridiculous roll, auto-loading holster and bipod. Wouldn't you know it, in the same activity that I got these two, I also got an auto-loading holster and elemental honing. Either of these are going to be ridiculous for this rocket launcher, but thanks to Trials of Osiris, I got a tier 5 unwavering duty. This is the first time I'm able to even talk about this weapon in any of my builds. Look at these rolls: auto-loading holster, incandescent, 4 times the charm. Then I got bait and switch, burning ambition, and killing tally. Mix and match however you want. And then, of course, masterwork it and throw on a temporal armaments or a temporal blast mod, depending on where you want to go. Can't go wrong with this weapon, but if you want the insta-burst damage from your heavy weapon, then the rocket launcher is the way to go. Let me know what you guys think works best in the heavy slot. If you have 2 legendaries in your kinetic and energy, there's some interesting exotics I bet you guys can think up to put with a build like this. So here we go, our exotic armor. Not a featured piece of exotic armor, but that doesn't matter. All you're really messing out is the extra damage resistance. Remember, Bungie made all exotics essentially tier 2s, give or take, depending on what your opinion is on what technically is a tier 2. Some people will just call this a tier 3 because you get you get some kind of superpower with it, or so to speak, enhancement, I guess you can call it. But they really are just tier 2 armors when it comes down to it. Stats aren't that great, so when you're building into exotics like Crown of Tempests, you got to kind of have an idea of where you want it to go. With this, with conduction times, when you have an arc ability equipped, arc ability or jolt final blows increase the recharge rate of your abilities and extend the duration of storm trance. We don't care about the storm trance. What we are taking advantage of is increasing the recharge rate of all of our abilities essentially every single time we spam Lightning Surge. Lightning Surge, of course, is an arc ability. So now that we are going to be inflicting jolt and using our arc ability all the time, it's time to talk about how that's going to fit into the rest of the armor. For your helmets, go ahead and spec into whatever general mod that you want, but you are going to have to make it a 1 energy cost mod if you want to make it exactly like my build. If you don't, you can modify it a little bit and still reap some benefits depending on the activity. Go ahead and equip 2 hands-on mods and 1 Solar Strand Dual Siphon mod. The reason we're taking double hands-on is because we are going to get insane super energy regen on our Lightning Surge melee kills. If you want to drop this down to 1, you can make an argument of putting a special ammo finder in one of the slots, or even a heavy ammo finder if you prefer. For the gauntlets, go ahead and spec into whatever general armor mod that you need, of course, and then we are going to run with 3 heavy-handeds. That means our cooldown between melee kills is 1 second. Every 1 second that you wait between melee kills is going to generate an orb of power. Of course, if you drop this down to 2 heavy-handed, you have to wait 5 seconds. I would not recommend running this build with only 1. For the chest armor, make sure you spec into 2 elemental resistance mods. And then I prefer putting the solar ammo generation mod on here because I don't have the special ammo finder in my helmet. However, you can spec into a 3rd elemental resistance mod, and I always recommend doing the most common ones. So arc, void, and then in this slot would be solar. For the legs, go ahead and put on invigoration, innervation, and absolution. You could make an argument here for running double absolution, which fans of the channel know I actually loved running double absolution. What was that, 2 seasons ago? Yeah, I think so. Well, no, I think I did a couple of builds where I had double absolution early on in the year. But either way, I love double absolution in this build because it doesn't take a lot of ability regen to get your abilities back in the first place. So being able to get them all to snap back is pretty nice. You could also make an argument to put on invigoration twice instead of having an innervation here, since we don't really care about the grenade overall. In the class item, make sure you have your class fought on because your class stat is going to be abysmal if you build it up like mine is. Put on Reaper, so every time you use your class ability, you get that free overpower. And then put on Outreach because every time that you use your class ability, you get a little bit of energy bump back to your melee. For the artifact, there's a few different ways, few different mods in here that you can swap in and out for what I've got, but this is what I've got. Make sure that you have Anti-Barrier, Scout, and Pulse, so your new Malpais or your Mint Retrograde will pierce barrier champs. And then also make sure you put the Overload Rapid Fire on so your auto rifle and or your submachine gun can stun overloads. I don't really care about champs in this, not champs, I don't care about unstoppable champs with this build. The reason being is I've got new Malpais. I can just suspend them by dumping like 8 or 9 rounds into them. In the second column, make sure you have the Flame, Fiber, and Freeze on, or you won't be able to take advantage of the dual Siphon mod. Go on all the way down to Threadling Proliferation because you will be able to generate Threadlings with your new Malpais or your Mint Retrograde. In the third column, double down on that with Pack Tactics. Put on Refresh Threads, and then, of course, Fever and Chill. Finally, in the fourth column, go ahead and throw on Elemental Days if you are going to be seeing champs, and especially Elemental Coalescence. The other one that you could throw on here would be Threaded Blast if you are not going to be seeing champs, depending on the activity that you're running. In the final column, go ahead and put on Radiant Shrapnel since we are going to be maining a solar weapon for most of our ad clear. And I always recommend Shield Crush because we are going to have amplified constantly. We are going to have increased recharge rate on our grenade. And that's always nice to have when you are not completely focused on regenerating your grenade. But you can also make arguments of Elemental Overdrive. You can make an argument on Tangled Web. Those would probably be the only other 2 options with this build that you'd want to swap out for if for some reason you want to have increased grenade recharge rate and additional damage and all that fun stuff. So that is the build. Go ahead and let me know in the comments certain things that you guys would change up. I love hearing different ideas, especially recently, let's say in the last month or 2. I've been getting a lot more feedback in the comments about how people would change up the builds that they see me do. And that always that's my love for the game right there. And, that's why I love playing Destiny, is because different people have different ideas that kind of come together on similar builds. And it's like when I think about things that other people suggest, I go back and I try it out, because that's what this game is all about. That's why I enjoy it so much, because it's always mixing and matching, seeing what works, seeing what flows best. So let me know in the comments what kind of changes you guys would make. Let me know if you'd go with new Malpais or Mint Retrograde. Let me know, what heavy weapon you prefer with a build like this. And then, of course, let me know about all the carnage you generate in any activity that you find yourself in. Raid, dungeon, portal activity, or whatever. If you did find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a Guardian out there who's looking for a way to spam their Song of Flame in kind of an unconventional way, and take advantage of some really good weapons this season, make sure you send this video to them or send them my way. My goal is to help as many people as possible. As always, I will have a dim link in the video description. And if by chance you are looking for that non-toxic gaming community, I highly recommend you hop into my Discord. It's very active, a lot of talkative folks in there that are super friendly, looking to grind out activities and just keep the good vibes going. So much negativity going on in the world, and also, all over YouTube about, Destiny and Bungie and all this stuff. I still have fun playing this game, and having a community around you that helps make the game stay fun and fresh, and, constantly, throwing ideas out there for things people want to do. Of course, we got events going in the Discord as well. Just makes it just such a great, I don't know what the word is. I guess a vacation from the stress of life, so to speak. Mini vacation, not literally, but it's just very nice to be able to offer that to people and know that there's so many people that, support me in the background that also are part of this community that are just, out there helping Guardians do Guardian things. And that's what this game is all about. And I really enjoy, the interactions I have with everybody on Discord and also in the comments too. I try to respond to everyone, try to be involved, and let you guys know that I want to try to do things that you guys want to see, and hopefully help everyone's game, in some way, shape, or form. So I'm going to switch over to a little bit more highlights, but otherwise we're going to wrap it up. So one of the other things that's important to note when thinking, is the build like this going to work in all activities? Well, consider this. Being able to print orbs of power on cue and give yourself armor charges, being able to go in and out of Transcendence with ease. The busier the activity, the more often you're going to be able to do it. So A+ in terms of what I'm thinking that it can be used for in terms of that. But let's say you're going through something slower. Let's say you're going through an activity or a strike or a dungeon where, hey, maybe your interaction with enemies is pretty limited. There's a lot of traversing or jumping puzzles or things like that. Having low ability cooldown times also is going to be popular as well. And the final thing with a build like this is being able to have weapons so that when you need damage instantly, let's just say it's during a time where you don't have any abilities proc, which is going to be hard to do with a build like this with Crown of Tempests, you have new style weapons that absolutely just hit like trucks. So you're going to have the best of all worlds. So if you run out of ability energy, or you're in a slower activity where it might not make sense to proc your super when you're only going to be dealing with enemies for about 10 seconds, but there are a lot of them, a build like this really helps round you out as a Guardian, because you can pick and choose how you want to play and know that there's not really going to be a situation in which you're going to be lacking in any kind of power or support for your teammates. So hopefully you guys like the build. Let me know in the comments all the things you would change and things that work better for you. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks as always for your support. Take care.
Labeled Oxa, and it's seriously corrupted. Metadata says it was last accessed by an Otzot centuries ago. What is Oxa? And who is Otzot?